Hey, good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox, living the dream. Hey, this morning I want to talk to y'all, as does Mr. Rooster over there, about coercive power. I watched over the last couple weeks a whole bunch of mafia movies. Like I watched The Godfather 2, Goodfellas. And then I did some research into the American Mafia, Cosa Nostra, which, I guess is the Sicilian one. I actually looked into something called the Jewish Mafia. I looked into the Irish mob. I don't know why. I was just interested in it and started kind of following it. And I got to thinking about us, right? And if someone came to you, to your place, and said, hey, let me tell you something. We're selling fire insurance. And if you buy insurance from us, we'll make sure nothing bad happens to your place, right? That's what they do, right? They do a lot of things, but that's one of the things they did. Or we're selling, just general insurance. Nothing bad will happen to your establishment if you pay us money every week, a percent of the take. Would you pay it? Because if you don't pay it, something is going to happen to your place. See, that's the thing. They're selling you insurance against themselves, right? Would you pay it? I think a lot of us knee-jerk reaction would be, hell no, I wouldn't pay that. You come back again, you meet my Mr. 12 gauge or something like that, right? But think about that. They're organized. They have lots of people. They have lots of time to decide what they're going to do and when they're going to do it, and you either pay them or not. Now, something else you could do is go to the authorities. You could say, hey, I'm being shaken down by these guys. That might work, or your place could still burn down. What about if there are no authorities? What about if it's a time without rule of law? And these guys roll up and say, hey, we're selling zombie insurance, and you just pay us however much. I couldn't find out how much people were expected to pay. I was looking for that. Like if I'm bringing in $2,000 a night at my bar, how much am I going to have to give up? I'm sure it varies, but I wonder what a rule of thumb is, Would you pay it? Put that over here for now. Well, no, I guess we'll address that. The mob came about in America. There's another movie too. Once Upon a Time in America. I think that might be another mob movie that I need to watch because I'm thinking about this stuff. But Once Upon a Time in America, immigrants came in, and they came in waves. And so when the Italians came here, they were not well received, and there were already German and English, immigrants, if you will, who had been Americanized, who were living here. And so the Italians got the bad part of town to live in and didn't have any money and didn't have the good jobs. And therefore, because they're not high on the tax base, they're not getting a lot of police support, yada, yada, yada. And so in a lot of ways, not in all ways, in a lot of ways, these organizations grew up and they did provide a kind of protection. If you that kind of comes out when you watch The Godfather and Godfather 2. People come and they say, Godfather, I'm having this problem. Please help me with it. And he does. He just solves. It's like community relations. It's a lot like just being a mayor, right? It's like, hey, this guy's kicking me out of my house because I have a dog. I got nowhere to go. Can you do something, Godfather? And Godfather goes and he does something. Or the up-and-coming Godfather. And so they did provide a service to the people. Now, if you don't pay them, though, bad things happen to you, right? And so I got to thinking about that, and would you pay them? And then I started looking at warlords, right? And warlords is really, like I say, we are by default tribal in nature. We're designed programmed that way, and the 21st century has slowed us down on that. Somebody's shooting. I'm trying to determine from where. Um, Same thing with warlords. I mean, warlords come out of a tribal type system anyway, right? And the way warlords work is, they come in and they're like, we'll take care of you, but you got to be part of us and you got to pay, right? I was reading about the mafia, and I guess they have a hierarchy of like the boss, the godfather, the Don. He has his consigliere, right, his advisor, and then he has like an underboss. So that's like three guys that kind of rule a family. This is all according to what I've been reading. And then underneath them are capos, or captains. And captains have underneath them soldiers, which are made men in the mafia. Probably giving you more details than you want, but they're in the mafia. And then underneath them, or intermixed with them, are associates who aren't officially part of the mafia or the mob, but they work with them. And the way it works is the guys down at the lowest level do the deeds, and they make money from that, whether that's prostitution or drugs or shaking people down or whatever. They make money, and then they pass that up to their captain, a chunk of it, a big chunk of it. They get to keep some, but they got to pass some to the captain, and then the captain keeps some of that, and he passes some up to the godfather, or the Don, or the head of the family. And I couldn't get what those percentages were. But it has to work. People have to be able to put food on the table, right? At the lower end, I'm talking about, or they wouldn't do it. So I was looking at that, and then I was wondering, if somebody came around and tried to shake me down, what would I do? Now put that over there. Think about this. I've been known to say in the past that because the state has a monopoly on force, or they want to. The state, the United States, the state of whatever state you live in, Minnesota, they're the only ones who are allowed to use force. That's how they want it, right? You're not really allowed to use force. Yeah, self-defense a little bit, but other than that, no. Somebody scratches your car, you can't use force against them. And what I say is, the authority of the government on any matter extends all the way up to the death penalty. And I'll give you this. Let's say, I don't know, I'm going to try and pick something really silly. Let's say you've got a smashed out taillight on your car. And so you're driving down the road and you get pulled over. And the guy says, hey, your taillight's smashed out. I'm going to have to give you a ticket. And you're like, look, man, I don't want to fix my taillight. I'm not a danger to anybody. There's nobody behind me except you, and you obviously saw me. So, I'm just trying to make a ridiculous kind of situation. But it's just a smashed taillight, right? Or an out taillight. Doesn't even have to be smashed, just not working. And so he goes, well, here's your ticket. Show up for court. And he drives away. Well, you're like, no, man. They can't tell me what to do. They could see me just fine. There's street lights every 50 feet on this road. I don't need a tail light for people to tell there's a car in front of them. I'm not going to court. So you don't go to court. And then there's a bench warrant issued for your arrest. And then, the next time you get pulled over, or the next time they pick up your car on their little computer camera thing, lawbreaker, scoff law. And so they pull you over again, and they're like, hey, I got a bench warrant for your arrest because you didn't show up for court. We'll just take you in, you'll work it out, it'll all be okay. And you're like, no, I'm not going. Well, the police officer just told you you're going. And he said, no, I'm not going. So it's going to go a couple ways. But the bottom line is you're going to end up in jail or dead. You see, because at the time you say, I'm not going, and he's turn around, put your hands behind your back, and he goes to put his hands on you, and you start fighting him, he can shoot you, kill you dead, right there on the side of the road for failing to pay a ticket for taking out taillight. That's why you're dead. Now, I know you can get philosophical on it and go, well, no, you're actually rejecting the authority of the state. Yeah, that's exactly it, because the state has a monopoly on force. Do you pay taxes? You a tax-paying citizen? You know what happens if you don't pay your taxes? They come get you. They come take your stuff. It's the same thing as the mafia. The mafia comes and they say, hey, pay us taxes. Pay us whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. Bakshish or something. I don't know. Pay us. If you don't pay us, bad things are going to happen. It's the same thing the government does. They say, pay us. If you don't pay us, bad things are going to happen. What's the difference? Well, we elected the government and we chose what they blah, blah, blah. Did you? Did you? Did you decide that they could pass a law saying your grass can be no longer than 3 inches high? Well, no, it's the form of our government and the people decide. Do they? Or was that a city council vote that they didn't care what the people thought? You see, you can come up with cases in modern day life where the government that has the authority to kill you isn't working with people's best interests in mind. The more I look at politicians, the more I just can't stand them. I think they're all working for their own feather in their own nest, and they're shaking people down. It's a racket, man. So now going back to that mafia guy, it's the end of the world, things have gone crazy, and some dudes roll up and say, hey, pay us zombie insurance. You gonna pay? Because you're paying now. Everybody pays somebody. Even warlords got to give out gifts, keep people happy, like their under bosses or underlings or whatever. Oh yeah, they take care of them. It's kind of an interesting way to think about things, isn't it? Comparing the mafia with the government. How could you? How dare you? I'm just talking about the use of force and threatening force and getting money from people for no real service. Right? Now, yes, the government provides a service. I fully get that, right? I was in the military, you paid my salary. We pay police officers, we pay firefighters, we pave roads, stunt, and I get it, I get it. But it's still the same kind of thing. The mafia, I'll tell you a quick story and then I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to do another either video or write-up for the Warriors that takes this one level higher. But I'll tell you a quick story. I knew a guy from DEA, and we worked together for a while, and he told me the story. And his first assignment, I'm going to make it fast, his first assignment was out in Utah somewhere in a big city, and when they were going to do a drug bust, they'd tell all the guys, all right, hey, tomorrow final briefing, 07, everybody be in here ready to roll. And so they'd come into their briefing and they'd be all kitted out at the briefing. They'd have their black ninja gear on and their balaclava and their helmet and their MP5 or whatever. And they'd all gather around and they'd go over the route and how they're going to take down, and you two are going in the back and you three are going through the front door, and They would do all that. They'd mount up and they'd go. And they'd go do their raid, their counter-drug raid. So he works there for like 3 years, and then they transfer him to New York City. And he goes to New York City, and they put out the word, hey, tomorrow morning at 7 is our final briefing. We're going to go down and take Guido Sarducci, right? Mafia guy. We're going to take down Guido Sarducci. So everybody be here at 7 for final briefing. So next morning he comes rolling in. Now he's not a new guy. He's been doing this job for 3 years, but he's a new guy in New York. And he comes walking into the the briefing room in his ninja gear, and everybody else is like they wear suits in New York for the most part, I guess, or they did then. They're wearing like their suits and stuff, and they look at him, they start laughing, they go, where are you going, hero? He's like, I thought we were taking down Guido Sarducci. We are. Go put your clothes on. And he says it was totally different. He said, in Utah, they do a raid like you see raids on cops, door smashing, police search warrant, that kind of thing. He goes there, they walk up, they get out of their vehicles. They did put up some kind of perimeter, but they go knock on the door. Mr. Sarducci, DEA, we've got a warrant for your arrest, sir. He opens up the door, he goes, what? Oh, this is crazy. Maria, call the lawyer, tell him to square it away. All right, fellas, can I put my shoes on? They're like, yes, sir. He puts his shoes on. He comes walking out. They go, hey, we have to handcuff you before we put you in the car. He goes, can you do it in front? They're like, yeah. They handcuff him in front. They put him in the car and they drive away. It's just business on both sides, right? It's just a revenue game. If you want to talk about the war on drugs, that's just a revenue game. But anyway, he talked about in New York City. Now, I'm not from New York. I've never been to New York. So if one of y'all wants to correct me, I know the Australians corrected me pretty well on guns, although you still can't own the guns I own. But he said, this DEA agent said that in New York, first of all, not a lot of people drive cars because it's just, you can't park anywhere and there's no place to park at home and yada yada. So not a lot of people drive cars. But the people who do, when they park their car, there's no hubcaps on it, and they take, or they did then, this was before Rudy Giuliani, they would take the windshield wipers off and stick them in their glove box. Because if they didn't, when they came back to their car, their hubcaps would be gone and their windshield wipers would be gone. He said in the mafia part of town, I guess they all lived in the same part of town, they could park their cars with the keys in them. And ain't nothing gonna happen. Because, hey, we live here! Right? You don't mess around in the mafia part of town, evidently. You go walking around there doing bad things, looking at some girl the wrong way, and Guido's gonna come out and break both your legs. That's protection, right? That's quality of life, and for that, you pay something. All right, things to think about. Like I said, I'm going to do another thing. I don't know if I'm going to write it up or video it, but I want to get this one loaded now so I can't film and load at the same time. Think about who you're going to pay, what you're paying for, how's that working for you. Think about coercion, force. Yeah. All right, I'll see you out there.